My conversation today on Inside the Wounds is with Casey Tyson-Pearce. He's one of the vocalists of Angelmaker, and he's a mental and physical health enthusiast. Today, we're talking about how purpose is your own creation, how Angelmaker almost didn't happen, and how Ian Bear ended up joining Angelmaker. My name's Joaquin Rodriguez, and this is Inside the Wounds with Casey Tyson-Pearce. Dude, one of the things that I do want to jump into, I've been seeing what you've been posting about with that little portable studio that you've been working on. Let's dive into that. How's the build going?
Of course. So the build currently is going a lot slower than I had anticipated, but that's like most things in life, right? But the goal is to just build my own little studio, because right now I'm in my van, and I've lived in a van for 9 years, and this is my little van studio. I'm not going to move the camera around and all that to show you, but I'm trying to expand upon the real estate, so mercilessly building a tiny home, sort of trailer thing, and I've refurbished it from the ground up, and I worked on it today, and I considered it day 17.
Okay.
But I've probably got about 10 more days, and then it's like done and ready to use as a studio. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And I haven't seen anything quite like that before. I've seen, stuff that like van studios, which I think is kind of what you were talking about that you have set up.
Mm-hmm.
But to the level that you're doing it in, that's pretty damn impressive, dude. I'm excited to see
Thank you.
final product.
Yeah, thanks.
And with that being said, like, what was the overall inspiration for building a travel studio, at this level?
So I think it's kind of come full circle for me, because growing up, I always loved building tree forts and those sorts of things. Just loved working with my hands. My dad was in the trades, doing carpentry and an industrial electrician. So I always wanted to work with my hands and do things. And it was just always around, and I've built my van, decked it all out, turned it into a nice little living space. And then I did about 7 other vans and just kept going. And I was like, why don't I just build a tiny home? That makes sense. Van plus trailer. I don't have to pay property taxes on it whatsoever. I can just pull up at wherever I want to be. And one day when I'm able to buy my own land, I can just pull up there, and I don't have to wait for any infrastructure to be built. I can just start working right away. And it's also just nice to have such a thing, because I don't know, the world's looking pretty grim, and I might need to move places real fast. And if I can have everything all in one sort of confined area and take it with me, that would be very ideal.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, man. And how do you think this will help you in the band's creative process?
Oh, exponentially. I feel like the moment I have this trailer built, I will have more space for myself to work on myself and capitalize. I don't like using that word, but capitalize on my health.
Yeah.
Because I will have space to do yoga, just stretching, massage therapy. I'll have a little fireplace in there, and I can just function with that amount of space. And once I have the studio set up, things will just go nice and smooth, because I don't use my van studio as often as I would like to, because I have to set it up, and it takes me the better part of half an hour. And if I want to drive anywhere, I got to tear it all down. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, totally, man. And speaking of the band, why don't we dive into some Angelmaker topics here?
Of course.
So first, can I tell you the story about my first time experiencing Angelmaker?
Absolutely.
Okay, you might like this story. So my first exposure to the band was at Summer Slaughter 2017 in Denver, Colorado. Just for context, I've heard of Angelmaker at that time, but never have listened to any of the songs at that point. I didn't even know how anyone in the band looked like. So when I was there at the venue, I was in front of the pit, right there at the guardrails, pretty much, lined up in the middle of the stage. And the first band just finished the set. Then, Angelmaker's about to take the stage. Then I see a guy who is guy with a afro come on stage, is wearing nothing at all except for galaxy colored yoga pants, setting up cables and everything like that. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck's about to happen right now? So lights go out and you all open the set with Day After Day. Turns out the guy in the yoga pants is you.
Haha, surprise.
And bro, I was in awe. I was so blown away by the amount of energy and aura you guys have on stage. Like, especially you.
Thank
Like,
you.
you move your body in a way that shouldn't be possible.
It's all that yoga,
Um,
baby.
yeah, like, dude, I remember like how far like you were leaning back and like going forward, like for like your head banging on certain parts of the song. And like, dude, I guess how's your back feeling right now?
Great. Oh, I got the greatest back ever, and like no issues whatsoever.
Damn, dude. I mean, I guess let's go off that. It
Mhm.
looks like you put your body through hell on stage. What do you do to prep your body for those types of performances, and what's your recovery process?
That's a good question. So, uh, of course, when it comes to anything that is remotely considered physical activity, it is always smart to warm up. So I will warm up as much as I possibly can. And actually, here's a little bit of a deep cut for you. When I was 16, I broke my tailbone, like my sacrum, and snowboarding. I did like a down flat down rail, and I went down flat and then aired off of that, and then smashed my tailbone on the on the very end of the rail. Anyways, I was in a wheelchair for a bit, and I really had to go down a rabbit hole of health to make sure that I could like walk again. And it was fine for the most part. Like teenagers are pretty resilient, but when I was 21, it really came back to haunt me. So I just nerded out about health and fitness, and that was also around the time that I started touring. And yeah, I just learned like an astronomical amount of information towards keeping the body maintained in a way where I'm not going to compromise anything or create any further damage. So I focused on strength, flexibility, and mobility. Mobility, especially, and when it comes to be like a performance, like I'll do, you can see that I'm being as mobile as I possibly can. But also, you will notice that I keep my like core relatively straight. I don't like bend over or hunch over, um, because that's where a lot of the issues can take place if you start, uh, like using shitty posture.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense actually, quite a
Hmm.
bit. And dude, like when I think of, this is my own personal list here, but when I think of bands who put on like the most amazing live performances ever, I think of bands like Slipknot, Betraying the Martyrs, and Angelmaker. Those are the top three bands that
Oh,
I
really?
think of. Take away the lights, take away like the structures on stage or the fancy stage setups, just focusing on the live performance itself. Dude, you guys fucking crush it, dude.
Thank you.
And from what I understand, and you just mentioned it right now pretty much, from what I understand, you're someone who finds value in aligning the body with the mind as well,
Oh,
and like being
absolutely.
being in that flow state. And
Hmm.
I guess like how do you think I know you touched on it, but how do you think that benefits you as a person along as a performer?
Oh, I feel like I could answer that question in so many different ways, but I'm going to try to like compress the answer as much as I possibly can. Um, I have this visual before I go on stage that's just kind of like a, what do you call it? Is it a name for this? A simile, an analogy. That's the word. And it's kind of like you're in a canoe or something and you're going over a waterfall, and there's this performance that's about to happen. And if you are going over a waterfall and you have no choice, you might as well just hit it straight on, you know? If you hit it sideways, it's going to end bad real quick. But if you
Yeah,
do something like whitewater kayaking, you'll see that when it comes to a waterfall, they hit it straight on. So I feel like there's this inevitable ride that I have to go on that feels like a waterfall. It's scary, like going up on stage and feeling like I have to be like aligned every single time. So I prep myself as much as I can, and I think of this like inevitable sort of performance that I have to do, whether I like it or not, whether I'm sick or, you know. And
absolutely.
I think, how do I say, like, that in itself transcends into all these other elements within my life. Um, and there's like the expression, that you're going to send it, and you just send it and you have no choice. And that fortifies your spirit, I feel. And having to throw yourself into the fray, especially when you don't want to, is one of the most monumental tools for growth. Yeah.
Dude, that's beautiful. I think that's
Thank you.
very well put, man. So thank you for sharing that. You got me motivated.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did you understand the importance of mental and physical health?
Oh, probably around the same time that I had tried to recover from breaking my back at the age of 21. Like, just really hammering down on it and knowing that what you do to the body, you do to the mind, and what you do to the mind, you do to the body. And that also works with, like, what we consider spirit or whatever you want to call it,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that does make a lot of sense. And I guess, how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle while you're on tour?
Stay away from junk food. Like when we're in America, it's hard, especially when it's like 2 a.m. You haven't eaten in 12 hours, and the only thing that's open is like a Subway and a McDonald's. And those are your choices, you can prep most of the time. We'll go to like a Walmart and stock up on food, throw it in our fridge, something like that. But I would say that diet is probably the largest component for me in terms of my value system for how to maintain this on tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as of right now, are you guys still touring in a van, or is it RV bus?
So we just bought a RV, like a Jayco Red Hawk, like 32-foot long C-Class motorhome RV. And I built it in 8 days. Like, I built it out. We put like nine bunks in the back and then 1 bunk up in the front for the driver. And there's like a soundproof wall, a TV. We took out the stove and put more seating area stuff in there, switched up the bathroom, turned this whole RV into a bus. So now we have our own bus, which is amazing. And it feels like a huge milestone for us to have that.
Dude, you're just so damn handy, aren't you, dude? You're always building shit. That's awesome, man.
I love it.
Yeah, and obviously you're using it to your benefit. You're making your life easier, like, and it seems like in every facet, right? So that's fucking dope. And I guess let's go down memory lane a little bit. When did you become a musician?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that music has been a part of my life ever since I was like born, essentially, or as early as I can remember. I remember being 3 years old and having these plastic little fake guitars, and my brother and I went up on the fireplace mantle and just started going, like, doing a little concert for our parents, and then just wanted to like hammer that out. And my dad had a guitar, and I'd always like play the guitar, and growing up, and then learned how to play the guitar, learned how to play the bass, and then had a band when I was in like elementary school. We played one show and it was a train wreck, but that train wreck like really helped me like ascend myself further into wanting to continue a musical journey.
Right. Yeah, well, what are some things that are similar, from when you were a kid to the Casey now, like mindset wise?
Similar. Oh, I don't know how to really answer that question too well. I don't know.
Well, how about this? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you continue.
Well, let's look at it the opposite way. What are some things that have changed?
I think the why factor has changed dramatically over the years. And I think from when I was a kid, the why seemed to be more of this like egoic self-actualization, sort of childlike standpoint towards wanting to perform and be a musician. But now I feel like I'm doing this because I would like to help people as much as I possibly can. And even though I'm just some stage monkey and I just do this little jig and start yelling at people on stage, like, I have people's attention, and people are willing to listen to what I have to say. So if that is the case, I might as well say the best possible things that I can in order to aid other people in their situations, because that's no sweat off of my back, right?
Right.
So I would like to inspire people as much as I can, and I don't think that's something that I had when I was a kid. So maybe that is what has changed, but I don't really know how to answer what has stayed the same, though.
You did say something super interesting, though, that I really love a lot. You essentially are talking about giving almost pretty much healing to the people who might need it, right?
hmm
So have you pretty much taken that on maybe as a responsibility at this point? Almost kind of like almost like a therapist, right? Because who knows? I mean, a lot of us don't have that luxury of having access to a therapist or getting proper help. Like going to this show is their therapy for the fucking year or what have you.
hmm
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think there is that sort of therapeutic aspect, and I'll try to reach out to as many people as I possibly can. But just being on stage in and of itself, I've had some friends come to shows who have said that like what they're seeing, and now these are friends who like I've known them from high school. They don't listen to metal at all, but they just wanted to come see a show, and they see all these kids in the pit, and they almost see this like somatic release, and like this is what people do to like really get it out.
Yeah.
And I try to command that as much as I possibly can and bring that energy for people to like really spill that out. And you get to see that on people's faces, like in the pit. It's this full on release. It's euphoric for them. And I don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on in their mind in those moments and the epiphanies they may be having or lack thereof, but it's a beautiful thing to get to be a part of. And I am always appreciative to be on the stage doing that. I love being in the pit. It's fun because you get to be in there with those people, but being on the stage is almost like you get to command that in your way with your energy and the rest of the band, of course. And you get to do something that feels very you. And I think that is actually the similarity I've probably had since I was a kid, is that sort of sermonistic aspect has always felt very me.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And has that influenced the way you approach lyric writing?
Somewhat. I mean, in the past, it was not necessarily trying to get the most philosophical or philosophically sound points across in the lyrics as much as just like painting this picture that like emanates brutality. But I think as Angelmaker is growing up, we're adding a lot more of those elements to our music.
Fair enough, man. That's fantastic. And to go a little deeper here, like what are some key lessons you learned throughout your journey as a musician?
I would say one of the largest lessons that is still continuing to this day in terms of like really feeling out the entirety of the lesson itself is to really just take it one day at a time. And it seems so simple, and people are like, oh yeah, I've heard that a million times. But to like embody that day by day is a real test, especially on the days that you don't want to take it one day at a time. And to expand on that, I have technically been traveling for 32 months straight.
Wow.
I have not stayed in one location for more than 3 weeks, and there's been 4 intervals of that in the last, like, almost, well, I guess it's been more than 2.5 years.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and how I'm able to do that is to actually take it day by day and like piece by piece and live in the moment and be as present as I possibly can and not feel like there's this huge mountain before me that I have to climb. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to climb that whole mountain. But like that mountain is only going to be climbed one step at a time. And you just enjoy that process as you go. And it lightens the load a lot, especially on the not so mentally well days. I really feel the pull mentally. But if you learn how to, essentially, in short terms, live with yourself and be your best friend, you can go so much further, I feel, because a lot of our energy is spent mentally, at least the patterns that I've seen in modern day. So get out of your head, be present, and take it day by day. And that is probably the largest lesson I have learned.
That's amazing. On a personal, I think I needed to hear that. So
Woohoo!
thank you for saying that, dude. Thank you so much for saying that. And do you think that's related to also like patience and perhaps discipline?
Oh, of course. Those are a part of the package, really. Like, um, patience and discipline are virtues, and you cannot attain virtues without struggle. And I love like being on tour, and let's say it's a cold winter day and the tire just fell off the van, and it's you and a tire iron on the side of some interstate. It's a blizzard and you got to get this thing done, you know? And I love moments like that. It's chaos, absolute chaos in it, and hell. Um, but I see those moments of like struggle, and I'm like, this is going to shape me, and I can choose if this is going to shape me for the better or the worse. And there's certain elements within that that I can't control, but having that awareness that there are elements in life that you cannot control takes the edge off of the stress.
Those are very wise words, man. Victor, very wise words. Yeah, dude. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Going, more into the Angelmaker stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But after the writing process of Dissension, you took a break from the band, and
No, that was before.
before.
Yeah, so it was just before.
Gotcha. And so when you returned back, that's when you realized that you need to start taking the band seriously. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And can you remember the exact moment where you made that decision to take that jump?
Oh, yeah, this is actually a great story. So right out of high school, I had a high school sweetheart, and she decided to go down to Peru in October of 2013. And I was like, oh, I'll come down as well. And she's like, okay, that's cool. I was like, well, I still got to get my passport and whatnot, so I'll probably be there a few months after you. She's like, that's really cool. Yeah, come down in like January. So I go down in January 2014. And the moment I get down there, she's like, by the way, this is my new boyfriend. Oh, heartbroken in Peru. And I spent like 6 months down there teaching English to street children in Huancayo, Peru, and just tried to like really find myself. And while I was doing that, my neighbors at the place I was staying at were these two older guys. They're like 25, 26. I'm 18 at the time. And they had like a little karaoke machine with like, I think it was Mariah Carey or what's her name? Shakira. No, it had Shakira on the side of it. It was great. And they started blasting like grindcore. They put on Lamb of God, and I was like, oh, I can scream this. And I did. And they're like, dude, you have to do this. It's like, what do you mean I have to do this? I just quit the band. They're like, no, this is it. You have to do this. But in Spanish,
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I was like, nah, there's no way. Like, I'm going on a totally separate journey in my life, but it just resonated with me that, like, maybe I have to do this. I was like, have to do this. And then, lo and behold, near the end of my journey, I went up to Ecuador and had an ayahuasca experience in the Amazon in a small town called Baños. And yeah, that ayahuasca experience really changed a lot for me. And the first articulatable thought that I had upon coming out of it was, I have a lot of work to do. And I was like, what kind of work? What am I doing? What is life for? I was like, well, I would like to inspire people and try to fuel love more than fear. And one of the best ways I can do that I truly felt in those moments was through music, because music moves people so much. Like it brings up this catharsis in so many people, especially in this genre, and genres like just metal in general, you know. There's a lot of intricacy and complexities and, catharsis. And I think people really resonate with those elements and draw a lot of inspiration from that. So I thought maybe it is a part of my purpose if I wish to create it as so, because I believe purpose is your own creation, you know? Like, I don't know what the fuck's happening in the universe right now, or if it is a universe, maybe it's something completely different. I don't know if there's a god or it's some computer guy in the sky and maybe we're in somebody's Xbox. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm going to create purpose for myself because I can, and that's fun. And if I was immortal, I'd probably get bored and just create purpose at some point in my life, you know?
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, sorry, I'll just cap this off here real quick. So my purpose that I felt was to inspire people through sound. And then I just decided to create this image that slowly developed into what it is today, and this shirtless spandex monkey dude on stage. Yeah.
I love that, dude. Well, dude, that's powerful, dude. That was legit a calling for you, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
That's fucking awesome, dude. So is it fair to say out of that whole experience, you learned about creating destiny, your own destiny?
Yes.
Dude, that's powerful shit, man. Especially experience that at that age, because you said you were about 18 at the time.
Yeah, I was 18.
Dude, that's incredible, dude. Shit, dude, we might be the same age, dude. How old are you right now?
I'm 29.
Okay, you're 2 years older than me. Okay, I'm 27. But
okay.
That's super dope, dude. And I guess in making that decision, what sacrifices came along with that?
Mm-hmm. That is a very good question. And I think about this a lot, actually. One of the big sacrifices for making such a decision to consistently be traveling in a band and trying to pursue the life that I feel is my calling is I can't have a dog. That's a sacrifice. I would love to care for animals. I would love to have a garden. I would love to travel to certain places in a different manner than I would rather than touring, you know? So I would like to just go trekking or traveling, backpacking for like 4 months or whatever that is. Can't do that. But that's a luxury, of course. And here's a meaty one. It's harder to make long-lasting connections with people when you constantly have to travel.
Right. And is there something behind that? Is that something you've... Okay.
I would say so, yeah. It's and I think all my friends would really know that, like, I always have my head in my projects, like my van and whatnot, or my trailer, or I'm on tour, so I don't get to see the people I love as much as I would like to. And I think that is ultimately the simple way to say the sacrifice of choosing such a lifestyle.
And that makes a lot of sense. And so as you started doing the thing, let's say for a couple of years, at what point did it feel like, okay, you made the right decision?
I think it comes in waves. I don't think there was ever like one moment where it really felt like, yes, I've made the right decision. It's just little moments here and there and just being mindful of the scenarios. Like one picture that I can paint is being finished all the work in our RV that we just bought. Everybody's just sitting around. There's vibe lights. The TV's on. Music's going. Everybody's laughing and comfortable. And I was like, that's it. That's it right there. Like we're in Nebraska going 120 kilometers, so 80 miles an hour down the highway right now. And everybody's just peaceful. This is beautiful.
Hell yeah, dude.
And that's definitely one moment.
Awesome, dude. And what was the pivotal moment where you feel like you made it?
I don't know if I've had that yet.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's completely fair. Well, what would have to happen for you to feel that way?
Ah, that's a good question. And I think in one sense, I will never get there. And I'm
Mm,
okay with that. And I think in the same way that some people will have their white picket fence dreams and, they made all their money, they got their retirement funds all set up and like they're set, they got that house, they got the wife, they got the kids, they got the car, but it still doesn't feel like they made it, and it all just feels like a
sure.
hoax. And I think in
Interesting.
some sense, I like success to me is being happy, healthy, and strong. And one of the things that makes me happy is being able to share lived experiences with other people.
Right.
And I think on a daily, I feel like I've made it, but that's in a micro sense. But in the macro, I don't feel like I've made it, and I don't feel like I ever will, because I'll keep moving the checkpoint further ahead.
Right. And do you think that comes from just always wanting to push yourself?
I think that's almost human nature.
Yeah.
Just like everybody seems to do that. We always want what's right in front of us, but not necessarily content or ecstatic with what we currently have. And I think
Shit.
that's okay. I think that's just a survival mechanism in its truest form to like look for the next best thing.
Right. And I guess here's an interesting question, just to go off that. How do you make sure that stays a healthy mindset? Because I feel like that's a pretty slippery slope where you could almost feel like you're never gonna be like satisfied or happy. You know what I'm saying?
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Um, just makes me think of like why we even have metal music, and that there is this perpetual sense of doom that I'm okay with, and knowing that in life we'll never really get there, and we don't necessarily have to, and maybe
Sure.
it was all for nothing, and you can actually just be positively nihilistic. It's what's it called? Is it called positive nihilism? Yeah, where you can be okay with knowing that there is just an inevitable doom to all things.
Shit. I don't
And
think I've ever thought of it that way.
yes, I'm trying to figure out who really coined that philosophy. I think it was Albert Camus, who was a French philosopher who talked about positive nihilism.
Okay.
And you'll hear it a lot in metal songs. Just this idea of doom. And everybody has their own feelings towards it and reservations. But I am okay with doom.
Sure. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be an end, right? I mean, we're not here forever.
Is
So,
there? Do we actually know that?
well, fuck, I guess that's a good question.
Whoa.
Damn. That's a good point. That is a fair point. Okay, so take me back to a rough patch in your career. How did you get there? What made it difficult? And how did you dig your way out?
Oof.
I'm asking all the hard questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. So a lot of scenarios I would say are ultra personal,
Okay.
to the point where maybe I should not elaborate on them so much. But one thing I will explain, and this goes for more than me, this was probably just everybody in the band experiencing this all together. We had done a tour in 2016, 2017 called Bloodletting, with internal bleeding, pyrexia, what are they called? Oh man, I'm forgetting the names of the band. Arsis and Decrepit Birth.
Okay.
And this tour happened in October of, maybe this was 2015. But anyways, we had written our full-length self-titled album in May before that. So May of 2015, I believe. And we went down to Portland, Oregon. We had recorded 12 songs with Stephen Hawks at Interlace Audio. He's now in Los Angeles, I believe. But we had the song Requiem on the album. And Requiem at the time had absolutely no meaning to it in terms of personal stuff. It was just supposed to be like a general sort of song for people who are experiencing loss. And we tailored it in a way that didn't really, it wasn't really on the nose for anybody in the band. It was just this like ambiguous sort of subject. And then we recorded the album, left Portland, Oregon, went back home, and a couple months later, Mike's younger brother, like the day before his birthday, accidentally had a gun misfire and hit him in the head, and it killed him. And Mike was in absolute shock, just in pieces, like that was his baby brother.
Right.
And very quickly, our song Requiem just so happened to be about that. And it became so eerie to us. Listening to that song became very tough for everybody. And yes, this was Mike's loss, but we were all going through it together as like brothers in a band. And Matt, our guitarist, also had his apartment burned down. So we went on this bloodletting tour, and we were all just in pieces, especially Mike. And I had some health complications going on that to this day I still don't really know what they are, but it was like some kind of weird neurological thing happening. And I would kind of go unconscious for a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what it is even to this day. It was a very trippy incident. So that was by far the most difficult tour for everybody in the band. And it was very hard to just be present in the tour and to like laugh and have fun and like, yeah, there's just a lot of moments and like breakdowns personally and mechanically and just all sorts of breakdowns, even in the music, it seems. And yeah, we had to call that tour quits early, unfortunately, mostly because of my health complications. But watching everybody go through this loss and all this other bullshit that was going on around us, because like I labeled Matt's things, Mike's things, my things, but there was a bunch of other little things that were happening. So it was quite the struggle for everybody. But we all knew that we had to be there for each other. And even though that was one of the toughest tours possibly, that strengthened everybody's bonds with each other. And we became a very tight-knit group very quickly after that. Because I believe it is those sorts of scenarios that will really, like, test you as a person or as a band, And I do believe that a lot of thriving came out of that chaos.
Yeah, my loving condolences to you all. Yeah, I obviously had no idea, and I don't want to dig into that. We'll respect, your wishes on that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously that is brutal to go through. I guess you just at the end of that mentioned that you use that to thrive. Would you say that essentially just using that all fuel to like get to the next level, or I guess was that what led to like digging you out of that rough patch? Is a change of mindset?
Yes, and perseverance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And connection. I think a lot of people, when they are grieving, try to hide away in the dark and quiet places.
Right.
And it seems almost natural.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like one of the greatest things anybody can do when they are in the dark and grieving or what have you is to just connect with other people. And not everybody's going to understand, but just trying to connect with other people is one of the healthiest things you can do as an individual.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that you all had each other in those moments,
Hmm.
because that obviously that helped. So that's at least that's great to hear. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I'll switch gears a little bit here. What I'm curious, like, what's your role behind the scenes? Because I've gotten the impression that you're the leader of the band. That's the impression that I get. Am I? Is that correct to assume there?
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay. And so what does that entail?
So for my role, what I currently do predominantly is make sure that we can just get the tours all set up, and we now have a manager who takes care of a lot of the things that I was doing before, and like Mike was doing, because Mike's done a lot of like the management stuff before we ended up doing like actually having management. Um, but my role has predominantly been just making sure that the tour, like the wheels on the bus go round and round. That's
Right.
my role. So I make sure the trailer's good to go. I make sure the van or the bus is good to go, and I have a pretty in-depth knowledge of mechanics at this point in my life, or mechanical knowledge, yeah. And I make sure that the vehicle is running and up to spec. On tour, I do a hell of a lot of just the labor and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. There's little bits in between. Like I'll make sure that we got like Airbnbs booked, hotels booked. Um, the flights are good. Keeping an itinerary. Little things like that. However, I would like to show more of my face and have more of a presence on social media, and that's why I'm building my tiny home right now, so I can capitalize on that sort of thing, because it's very hard to do that in my van, and I'm always out in the woods.
Right.
So it's hard for me to really be a face for the band, and things are a little interesting right now in terms of trying to like switch over our management situation. Um, so the role is subject to change a little bit, but soon the role is going to be a lot vaster than it is right now.
Gotcha. And yeah, well, let's talk about some new stuff here. How did the relationship
Hmm.
with Ian start?
So we had met the boys in Rings of Saturn on Summer Slaughter. 2017 that was?
Mhm.
2016. Um, and we just hung out with Ian, and oh, I bet Colton or Matt would be able to tell this story better than I would, but we had an old van that was like this Ford E150 sort of hippie van, and that was our first tour bus, and we crammed 6 to 7 people in there, and we started Summer Slaughter with this tiny little bus, and we rigged up this small TV and this power inverter and all this stuff and a GameCube. And Ian just so happened to come by the van, and he saw the GameCube, and we're playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. And he's
Mhm.
like, "No way, you guys have Super Smash Bros." And we just started playing Super Smash Bros. With Ian like day one of Summer Slaughter.
Oh yeah.
And we just started hanging out, and we'd go get food together, and then we toured with them on their headliner with Enterprise Earth. And who else was with us? Oh, I can't remember who else was with us, but we were with Enterprise Earth and Rings of Saturn. Oh, and Brand of Sacrifice. Um, and we hung out with Ian more then. That was in like 2019, and then yeah, COVID happened,
Right.
and then we needed to do a vocalist change up, and we're like, who do we know that would be great for the job? And Colton's like, Ian. So Colton messaged Ian. He was like, how would you feel about sharing the spotlight with Casey? And he's like, that's funny. Literally 24 hours ago at work, I was telling my buddy, man, I really want to go on stage again. She's like, it's so serendipitous that you're asking me or this right now. He's like, absolutely, I would love to.
Fun.
So without question, Ian had joined Angelmaker.
Dude, hell yeah, dude. It seems like that was perfect timing. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how has it been writing with him?
Oh, it's been easy breezy. Ian is an amazing writer. We are coming out with another album, full-length album, and I think his work on the album is absolutely phenomenal. He's
Hell
a
yeah.
beast. His vocal prowess is just otherworldly, and I'm excited for people to hear what he's got going on.
Dude, fuck yeah, we're excited as well. And what do you think Ian brings to the Angelmaker culture?
Ha! He has a very peaceful mindset. Um, he's always got a good attitude. He's constantly dealing with his own battles and whatnot, but he's always just very centered within himself, very easygoing guy. And I think to the culture, uh, he just brings this like easygoingness. Um, very respectable, sir. Yeah, I great admiration for Ian. Just all around lovely dude. And within within the dynamic of the band, I think he fits the picture very well. Just vibes with everybody, no problems whatsoever. He's always just like watching and attentive. I think if he had what's it called, like an animal that was a liken to him, like a spirit animal or what have you, it would be an owl, and he's just watching.
Interesting.
Very much so like an owl. And it's like you're doing something, you need 3 hands for a second. Ian's got his hand out ready to go to like hold your beer for whatever you're doing. And he's just a very mindful and respectful sir. He doesn't make a mess or anything like that. And I think he has a lot to offer that he doesn't even know yet. And I really hope that this journey moving forward with him is going to help like flourish that sense of what he can bring to the table.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. That's really awesome that it's working out so well. Excited for
It's working real
that
good.
turns into. Oh yeah. I gotta ask this question. What's the philosophy behind having 2 vocalists and 3 guitarists?
Have you ever had 2 sauces on the same sandwich?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Dude, it's such a simple, awesome answer. I love that.
Yeah. But for real, I would say like seeing Angelmaker live with that many elements behind it is just this like wall of sound unlike any other, because on albums you'll hear layering with highs and lows, but being able to do that live is just insanity.
Totally. That's a good point. And do you think that's the band's X factor?
Uh, it seems to be like, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess with that too, with the music industry being, so saturated, how do you think a smaller band should go about discovering their own X factor?
Ah, this is gonna sound like the most cliche answer, but practice, 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 Just keep throwing yourself into the fire, go on stage, just do the thing. Wherever the fear is where you should probably put your energy, and just do that thing, Do that courageous act, like make music, spend that time, sacrifice that time to really like put your energy towards your vision, and understand that you might not strike golds on your first dig,
Right.
and just keep going, just keep hammering it out, because where Angelmaker had started is definitely not where we are today by any means, and the journey in between that is nothing I ever could have dreamed of, but I just had to do it. We all had to.
Right.
So just keep sending it, throw yourself into the fire. Yeah,
dude. I love the way you said that. You're not going to strike gold the first time. I love that, because that's a really good point. Shit, some people do, but that doesn't mean everybody has to.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think some people really make it look like they do, but it's not necessarily the case, because you look at bands like Slaughter to Prevail, and yes, Alex Terrible, he had the formula set, like YouTube videos of like he did like Radioactive, and Slipknot like Wait and Bleed, I believe, videos like that, and that really like got him up off the ground. But all the other people in Slaughter to Prevail have been in bands before, and like they've been grinding before anybody even heard of Slaughter to Prevail.
Right.
So sometimes it looks like people strike gold first and foremost, but not necessarily. There is the odd exception, but I am within the philosophy that it is more likely that you will not strike gold the first time. I'm sorry to tell everybody that, but
Dude, that's actually probably good for a lot of people to hear, to be honest.
yes. Well, I think that's kind of goes back to the question that you had about just like what I do to prepare for tours and shows and whatnot. It's like when I go on tour, I know I'm going to be gone for X amount of time, and I have to like mentally prepare that. I don't have to sit there and meditate all the time, but just really digest that I'm going to be gone and I'm going to need to like run this like musical marathon for the better part of a month. And the mental preparation is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was I tying this back in again? I can't remember.
You're saying a lot of good stuff, so I'm just listening, bro.
Yeah. I had lost that train of thought. I'm going to let that one slide for now.
Sure. Well, talk to me about Relinquished. What was the band's chemistry like during the writing process of that song?
So that song has been written for quite some time, actually.
Okay.
And I had written it about just like climate disasters and impending doom. And you look at the state of the world today, and it almost seems on the nose for what's happening. And I myself, being somebody who lives in a van and now is building a trailer, is kind of like a closet doomsday prepper. You know, like I see that there is a plausible end to the comforts of society that we have in modern day. And or let's just call it some kind of apocalyptic scenario. One can dream. So I put that into the song and really thought about like how this world is going to play out. And I'm no climate scientist. I'm no expert. You know, I'm not a doctor or a dentist. I don't know these things, man. But I see on social media what's going on around the world. And it seems like there is this impending doom for the Holocene. And if you don't know what the Holocene is, it's like the era in which life can thrive or even survive. So like when things get too apocalyptic and all life starts to die, the Holocene will end.
Gotcha.
And that is what it has been labeled. And the song just had to do with the downfall of the Holocene.
Okay. Gotcha. And what does the writing process look for you all these days? Like, because aren't two bandmates like out of the country?
Yeah, we have our drummer, Steven, who lives in the Bronx, like in the hood in New York. And we got Ian, who lives way out in Amish in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that writing process look like? Is it just basically everybody writing? Somebody might come up with an idea in the home studio, share it. People have their own pieces.
So we have 3 guitarists now, and Johnny is our latest addition in terms of the guitars. Johnny is an amazing writer, and he's always wanted to write music like Angelmaker, and him and Colton are like best buddies. And Johnny one day was just like, man, I would love to be in the band. We're like, wait, why can't you? You can. We can have 3 guitarists. We already got 2 vocalists. We're almost Slipknot. Let's go. Like we can do this.
More sauce to the sandwich.
Exactly. You're getting it. So we added Johnny on, and he started writing like a madman and wrote half of our Sanctum album.
Shit.
And Colton has been writing the other half of Sanctum, but everything else before that. Colton will, on his laptop, just put down like a simple drum track, or simpler. I mean, it's still crazy fast double kicks and whatnot, you know, but
right.
He'll write the drums and like the skeleton guitars and just the instrumental sort of stuff, add some MIDI bass to it, And then Mike and I would write in the past, like pretty 50-50, you know, like decide upon topics that resonate with the both of us. And then we'll write, and he'll start with like 5 of the songs. I'll do the other 5. And then we kind of come together and slowly merge them together and maybe tweak a little bit here and there. And maybe one song will be a little bit more Mike's, one will be a little bit more mine. But we put both of our heads into them so that we can come up with the most cohesive piece of material we possibly can.
Right.
And now that Ian's in the band, it's like the same sort of formula. And we write like Ian on the new album that we got coming out. I'll say that Ian had liberty on 3 songs all to himself, while the rest of them I had kind of taken over from like the 50% that I had written because Mike had left. So I guess that makes 8 songs, 9 songs, 8 songs would be pretty much my writing. And then he's come in and added his flair, and then I went to his songs and added my flair. But they're predominantly still his and predominantly still mine. So it's a little different right now.
Sure.
But so to phrase it all in an organized fashion, Colton and Johnny write the instrumentals, and then Ian and I will write the vocals and collaborate it as well as we can.
Nice. And what's been sticking out to you the most about the upcoming Angelmaker project?
It feels very grown up. It's like same thing, but just like grown.
I know exactly what you mean. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So that's awesome. And is there anything you can share with us ahead of time of the release? Like just what to expect or what have you?
A lot of crazy vocals, of course. Ian is a madman with vocals. Like being in the studio with him the first time, there's so many moments where I'm just like, just laughing because I'm like, that is insane. How does he do that? And it's just out of nowhere. Like he's just casual, just not having a problem with anything, and then just busts out these crazy vocals.
Fuck yeah.
Just an absolute madman. So yeah, a lot of crazy vocals, a lot of cool riffs. I really like the riffs on the new album. And Steven had full reign of the drums. It's 100% his own thing. He learned how to cook in the kitchen and write MIDI drums, and he plays it to a T, and it's like, it's crazy how well Steven added his flair to the mix.
Shit, yeah, dude. That's awesome. Well, I'm stoked. You got me pumped up, man. Switch gears a little bit, man. What is the most valuable piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
Yeah, I really got to think about that one.
Well, how about this? While you're thinking of that, let me ask you this. If you were mentoring somebody right now, what are some lessons you would teach them right off the bat?
First and foremost, learn how to listen.
Love that.
And then with listening, you will be able to properly respond. Because I feel like one of the largest problems in modern day and why people don't necessarily get the results they want is because they don't know how to listen, if that is to themselves or other people who are doing their best to offer whatever they can with what they have. And listening doesn't always mean that you have to take it with more than a grain of salt, you know?
Sure. I love that.
And that, obviously, with music, that really transcends because you have to listen to music. And the more you listen, the more you'll actually be able to comprehend what's going on. Because I feel like, now this is a hot take. I feel like there are people out there who don't have great listening skills. And these people seem to be those who are not necessarily interested in music in terms of like musical theory or learning how to play the song. They just hear it for what it is. Or I don't know. I'm not there necessarily. Not saying I'm the greatest listener out there, but
sure.
I feel like learning to truly listen is one of the greatest skills you can possibly have, because it will really bring you into the present moment, because you can't listen if you're not.
Solid point.
And that transcends into so many other elements of your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, man. What scares you?
My brother, I've done ayahuasca. Nothing scares me anymore. No, just kidding. That's not how that works. I guess, well, obviously, like, death scares me, but I'm going to be also curious if, I say I'm falling off a cliff. Yeah, I'll be like, oh my God, that's scary. Oh, I'm dying. But I'll be like, how's this going to feel for the moment that I'm going to feel it before it hits the ground? I'm like, oh, okay.
No.
I will definitely be scared to die. But I can't really think of something that's a true, like, outright fear.
Well, why? Why are you afraid of death?
Because I can't control it.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's going to happen. It is an inevitable outcome.
So does not having control of certain things give you anxiety?
I mean, on the day-to-day, not anymore whatsoever, because I just accept that there are things that are not within my control, and I will try my very, very best with something that could potentially be within my control. Say I have to try to fix something, but it's just fucked beyond the point where I can't fix it anymore. Like, it's no longer within my control. C'est la vie. That's it. But I don't know. There's a whole spectrum of, like, control and how much control is healthy to have, because you don't want to totally be out of control at all times, because then your head's all over the place and you don't know what's happening, and it looks really silly. And yeah, control is let's rephrase this. Power is something that I think everybody should have, to an extent, only enough to realize it is not what they want.
Wow. I elaborate on that. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, an extreme example is, you can see how certain millionaires and billionaires have a large plot of control and power, and they seem to go corrupt, more or less. There are definitely those that do not, and they seem to have healthy grounding practices.
Right.
I don't know how to answer that more so than just saying that, like, sure, everything in moderation, even control, even moderation in moderation. Yeah.
All right. So on the flip side of this, what excites you?
What excites me? Ooh. You'd think something would come, like, straight away, because it's quite exciting. Now, are you asking more in terms of music in the band, or just in general?
Just in general.
What excites me? I would say the natural world. I love mountains and being just out there in it, out in the elements, just nature, outdoorsy stuff. What else? I'm going to say fire. Fire excites me. I think everybody needs a good campfire every now and again, and just spend some time looking into the flames.
Yeah.
It's a very sacred and eternal element.
100% too.
I think it's a therapy, in a sense, very subtle. What else excites me? Ooh, health. I love health. I get very excited about health and wellness, fitness, and yoga, knowledge, information, engineering. Oh, I love engineering, physics.
Hell yeah.
The list goes on.
That's good. That's good that you gain a lot of excitement and pleasures from a lot of things in the world, man. That's good.
Yes.
I got one last question for you. What can us Colorado fans expect from Angelmaker on April 26th at the Gothic Theater in Denver, Colorado?
Ooh. So you're going to expect a wall of noise, a lot of vocals, a lot of guitar riffs, a lot of solos, a lot of energy. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to have an awesome light show that goes along with the music. Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a headlining tour that we're going to be playing with Humanity's Last Breath, Psycho Frame, and oh no, who's the other one?
Illusions, right? Or,
Al-
no, that's that's Whitechapel tour.
Oh no, who else are we playing with? Oh, The Gloom in the Corner. Yes, how could I forget? Yeah, Denver is one of our favorite cities to play. I will say that, and that's no word of a lie. It just actually is. Denver always goes hard.
Fuck yeah.
And come say hi.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay on top of new episodes of Inside the Wounds.